All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whatever time you're catching this broadcast, I want to welcome you to the Enlightenment series here on Facebook and also on YouTube. My name is Jay Moore, and I am your healthy accountant. And I appreciate you taking a few minutes to jump on and listen to I think a message that'll bring some enlightenment to things that you go through in your life. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. If you have not already liked and followed the page, please like the page, subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, and I look forward to serving you each and every day. All right, guys. So I'm going to jump right into the word today, and so the title of what we're talking about is "What You Say Is Not What You Teach." What you say is not what you teach. And I got this title this morning. Like it just kind of popped in through was reading one thing, started reading another thing, and then the title came in. And so I'm going to do my best to explain and really to enlighten you on some things that, we all have done. We all have done this. There's not a person on the planet that hasn't had to deal with saying one thing, but meaning another. And especially as a parent, and a lot of us are parents. And so what happens even as parents, we're telling our kids to do things. We want the kids to do the things that we're saying to do. And sometimes we're not actually doing them, and I was amongst a group this weekend. We were talking, and I realized that what's really challenging, what's really challenging about different perspectives is that you may have a perspective that I may not be able to understand right off. I may not see it. I may have a perspective, and we both believe that each and every perspective is right, which, sometimes you have to take a step back. You really have to take a step back. If someone has a different perspective than you, then you have to take a step back and try and figure out is what they're saying, is that the truth? Is what I'm saying, is this the truth? And a lot of times what happens is there's something inside of us called an ego. Are you familiar with that? That ego can actually hurt you when it comes time to really work on trying to figure out, what's good or what's truth. The ego itself could make you want to reject someone else's thoughts just because you're thinking one way, they're thinking another way, and the ideas may be clashing. So in the word, in Matthew 23, there's this whole chapter is filled with a parable where Jesus is he's talking to the teachers of that day. He's talking to, the folks that are leading, and he's telling them how they are false. Beware of these false teachings that you're getting. You know, if you want to get a lot of perspective on this, I want you to read this whole chapter, but I'm going to go right into a couple of the verses. In verse 11, I have it underlined. It says, if you want to be great, then go and help your neighbor and other people in need. Be kind to them and help them in every way you can. If you put yourself first, you will be humbled. But if you put others first, you'll be honored. Continuing on to verse 13. Then he turned to the scribes and said, you hypocrites, you pretend to know and love God, but with the attitude you have, you turn people away from him. Here it is. Now he's getting into something. He's saying, wait a second, you're saying one thing. You're showing as if you're doing something, but you're not actually doing it. You are actually turning people away from God, is what he's saying. So in essence, they're saying one thing and they're teaching another. To kind of continue this, he says, you're not really interested in God's kingdom and what in what you teach, and what you teach others keeps others from getting in. You're supposed to teach God's law. You're hypocrites. You persuade widows to donate their houses to the temple. You use the money for yourselves, Then with long public prayers, you pretend to be righteous. Your condemnation is justified. You will go to any length to convert one person, but here and abroad, both here and abroad. But after, here it is, but after that person is converted, he's twice as unfit for heaven than he was before because of what you taught him. So, what Jesus is talking about here is the fact that these Pharisees, these leaders, were teaching people things that they were that they weren't saying. So in essence, they were saying one thing, but they were doing another, which was making people unfit. They were making people unfit. Now, here is what I've come to understand about human tendency with this ego, right? And this ego that we have creates blind spots in what we can see. So imagine these Pharisees, these leaders, they think that they're doing the right thing because they're saying it and they look good. But in essence, what they're teaching is something totally that they can't even see. So they had a blind spot. Their ego put them in a blind spot of something that they didn't realize they were doing. They thought they were doing it all right, but here it is, they weren't, but they couldn't see it. And then when someone came to tell them, hey, this isn't right, what did they do? They rejected the idea. So what I want you today to take from this is that what I want you to do is I want you to be open-minded. See, being open-minded would have you would have to take your ego. You'd have to take your ego and you would have to constantly put it to the side, because what you're looking for is you're looking to find truth. See, a lot of times, just because we think something, we think that that is the truth, and that may not always be the case. And so you will have to say, wait a second, is my ego talking here? Is the ego what's pushing me right now? Or am I open-minded enough that I can see other ideas? See, because a lot of times we need the perspectives of other people in order to grow. We do. Like that is like, I think that's my search. I find other perspectives every day. I use the word, I use other books to find someone else's perspective to, because I want to see, well, am I off course here? Am I not open-minded? And I'm gonna tell you, being open-minded is challenging because of the ego. See, the ego will cause you to basically it will cause you to reject ideas from other people, because that's just how the ego is. And it's sometimes there's nothing you can do about it because it's hardwired. But when you can get a hold of the ego, and when you can get a hold of the fact that, okay, I want to be open-minded. I don't want to just say something. I don't want to just be saying something and then not actually doing it. And that is something that's serious. People say things all the time. People are not doing it. It's nothing like, I'm gonna tell you, it's nothing like, and I'll call an accountant now because I'm an accountant and I've done this myself, where you're helping people in their finances, but you're not working on your own finances. Like, does that make any sense? That you would be helping someone keep up with their finances. If it's, if you're working with a decent sized business and you're doing their accounting, you're helping them to see what it is that they need to see, but you're not doing it yourself. So now it is, you're saying one thing, but you're not doing it. And so as an accountant, I know I had to look at, well, wait a second, I've got to constantly check myself on the doing and not just the saying. See, because when Jesus talked about this in Matthew 23, what he was saying is that, look, you leaders here are teaching people, you're teaching people stuff. You're teaching them stuff that making them unfit for the kingdom. But I'm going to tell you, Here's the messed up part about this whole story. They rejected his whole idea. They were not open-minded to change their ways. They were stuck in their egos. They were stuck in their traditions. They were stuck in the fact that they believed they were right. They were so attached to what they believed that they could not see. They were blind, like they had these blind spots. Remember, I talked about this. You get these, there's two barriers, and the ego is a barrier, and then there's a blind spot. So because of the ego, they were blinded to new perspective. They were blinded to be able to see the real truth. And this is what happens to people. We all get so attached to how we think. We all get so attached to the fact that this is what I know. And we'll say, man, this is how I grew up, and this is what I have done all my life. And then, we don't realize that just having that and not being open to new ideas and new perspectives is costing us. It's now creating something maybe in our kids. So our kids are now, being a certain way, and we're trying to figure out, why are they like that? Well, what did they learn from us? Well, I would tell them to do this, and I was saying this, and I was saying that. Well, it was not just what you said. Look, I will throw myself under the bus on this like all day long, because I remember my kids were young. My kids were babies. And I remember I was saying one thing, doing another. And so if I had to, ridicule, or if I had to really scold anybody, I'm looking at myself like, dude, it was you. You caused the problems. Now, just because I, things happen a certain way, even if I did everything right, doesn't mean that it always works out, because that's not always the case. It's not always the case that just because you may have followed the right way doesn't mean that person or even your kids are going to follow it exactly. But what happens is this: if you do it, if you did it right, there's an opportunity for them. So instead of us just saying stuff and just saying, hey, look, you should do this, son, or you should do this, daughter, then, we've got to make sure that internally that's what we're doing. And that's what we continue to strive to do. We continue to be excellent. We continue to, to grow ourselves and to stay open to the new perspectives. And because this is a challenge, new perspectives, just imagine your thoughts, right? Imagine how you have lived your life, and then someone comes to you and say, hey, you got to change. You have to change. What's the first thing you're going to say to them? You're probably going to say, man, what are you talking about? I ain't got to change. I'm good the way I am. That's pretty much what the Pharisees did. They said, when Jesus said, look, you're messing up. What you're teaching is causing people to be unfit for heaven. You've got to change. They didn't change. In fact, they just got more stuck on their ideas. They got more stuck on what they were doing. And that's when they just was getting mad. And they was just like, oh no, we've got to get rid of this guy. That's what people do. Literally, I've seen it in churches. You've got a pastor, maybe his ideas are strong and people, don't like his ideas. And then bam, they want to get rid of him. Oh, we got to get rid of this guy because I don't like his ideas. He doesn't agree with me. He doesn't agree with how I want to do things. We've got to get rid of him. This happens every single day in church. It happens every single day in business. It happens in homes. It's why people get divorced. It happens everywhere because most people are not open. We say we're open. Hey, I'm open for everything. Oh, okay. Well, you're wrong. If someone tells you you're wrong, you automatically jump into a frenzy. Now, the person shouldn't say that you're wrong, but at the end of the day, Jesus told them they were wrong. So he was at the top. So because he said it, he says, look, people in let's see, verse 15 of chapter 23 of Matthew, it says, coming down, it says, you will go to any length to convert a person. Like you'll go any length to convert a person, both here and abroad. Just think about this. Oh, you want to get people in the church. You want to get people to be involved in this great mission, right? And but here's the thing. After the person's converted, he's twice as unfit for heaven as before. Twice as unfit? Come on, that's silly. It doesn't make any sense that he's twice as unfit. But it's the truth. It's the truth, guys. We have been saying our beliefs for many years. We've been saying it. And we're trying to figure out, well, why in the world is the church falling off? Why in the world are congregations not growing? Even in business, why in the world is the business not growing? Hey, well, it's us. It's us. We're saying one thing, we're doing another, and it's just not happening. We're wanting one thing, but we're not paying attention to the things that we want, and we're doing the things that we shouldn't do, and it's causing the results that we're getting. So, guys, what you say cannot be what you, it could be what you teach, but you've got to know that what you're teaching is going to come out from, it's going to come out from your energy. It's going to come out from actually how you're really living, just because, it's like I'm at home, nobody can see me. And then when I get to church or when I get to do something, I'll just say this thing. Man, I'm going to tell you, yeah, it's going to come out because the results are going to show, and so what we have to take from this program today, and this is what I want you to take from this. First is this: your ego. You have to get rid of your ego. You have to learn how to manage your ego. And they say ego stands for edging God out. That's what it stands for. So you have to manage your ego. So, and then you have to know that because of the ego, there are going to be blind spots that you cannot see. Somebody else might be able to see your blind spot. And if someone comes to you and they say something that could seem a little harsh, or they say something that, might make you think, you got to know that if your ego jumps in the way and you get upset, that's normal. But then you have to say, wait a second, let me take a step back. Let me really listen to what they said. Let me really see if there's any truth there. A lot of times there could be truth because look, everyone sees something different. Everyone sees something different. So you got to check your ego. You got to understand you do have blind spots. And overall, the third thing is you've got to stay open. You got to be open so that when these new ideas come in, when these new opportunities come in, when the challenges arise, you are open to doing things that are best. Those things that are best may not always be what you feel is ideal. Those things that are best may not always, make you, jump up for joy. I'm gonna tell you, it's not like I've started running again, and I'm gonna tell you, ain't nothing fun about it. I tell my wife all the time, it's nothing fun about running. I do it because it's a way to get control of my mind. Like literally, I realize that is an absolute way to take my mind, to take my ego and strangle it. Because the ego is telling me, you need to stop running. I'm saying, I'm going to take you farther. I'm going to make you cry. I'm going to make you realize that there's nothing you can do to stop where I'm going. You are going down. That's why I run. I've never run more than 6 miles, like seriously. But I've just decided I'm going to run more than 6. I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it, before this year is out, and there's only a few days left. I'm probably going to run 10. I'm going to run 10. That's right. It's going to be cold, and I'm just going to do it. But here's the thing. It's because I want to smother that ego. I want to be able to see blind spots, and I want to be able to be open to what people have to say to me, because because of when I'm open to what people have to say to me, then I'm willing to change. And that's what it comes down to, guys. In order to be able to manage your life well and not be the kind of person that's saying one thing and doing another, you've got to be open. You've got to be so open that it becomes radical. like there's a radical change in you and people start calling you crazy. Like, look, that Jay is crazy. He does some stuff that's off the wall. Absolutely. They called my man right here, Jesus, crazy. He was crazy. He was a radical. You know, he was the kind of person that people wanted to kill, and they did it. They succeeded. Now he didn't have to die. But here's the thing. He went ahead and did it. And I'm going to tell you, because he did it, man, because he did it, guys, we have the ability now. We have the ability to do so much more. So guys, look, I'm pretty much done. I want you to remember these three things. Ego, got to get rid of it. Blind spots, you will have blind spots, and you definitely got to be aware of these blind spots. And the third thing is you got to be open. You have to be open to new ideas. That's what has to happen. So guys, what you say is not always what you teach. So if that is true, then we've got to flip that around by getting rid of the ego, not allowing the blind spots to cause us not to be open. Got it? All right, guys, that's the message for today on Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant page on Facebook. I appreciate you for joining me today. Today is Christmas Eve, and so we're going to come on. We're going to do a program tomorrow on Christmas Day. So definitely be looking out for the notification, 7 o'clock, you know, between 7:15. Hopefully I don't stay up too late tonight, but definitely I'm going to be on tomorrow, and we'll have a great time talking again about, you know, just something enlightening about, you know, about the season and about how we can be better because of, you know, the birth of our Christ. So guys, I appreciate you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you back here.